Hi, everybody. Dan Holmes here from Feedzai. Welcome to yet another episode of the Fin podcast. It's super exciting today to have another one of our key clients with us. Shmuel, perhaps you could introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about you and in particular the role that you're currently undertaking within the fraud world.
So, hi Dan, very excited to be here with you. And my name is Shmuel Kahn. I'm working in Max, which is both issuer and acquirer in Israel. I'm working as the head of the payment risk department. I'm in the industry for the past 2 decades.
Maybe we start there, Shmuel. Two decades in the industry, you've seen a lot of things. How would you compare the challenges of what you were seeing even 5 years ago to the challenges that you're seeing today? How has that world evolved, and how are the challenges that you're trying to defend your organization from evolved during that time?
Well, I think that the type of fraud in the past was quite simple comparing to what we have today. I mean, the fraudsters are conducting scams using very, very sophisticated technology like deepfakes and generative AI. Versus the past, the fraud that we used to see were quite simple. I mean, the most sophisticated thing that we used to saw was the use of skimming devices by employees at gas stations, while today you can see all kinds of hackers and all kinds of technological tools that are being sold in the dark web, in the darknet.
And I guess in parallel to that, as the risks themselves have become more sophisticated in the way in which the fraudsters are executing the attacks, is it a fair assumption rather to say that the technology that you and your organization have been using has equally had to ramp up on that same technology curve?
If in the past we used to work with all kinds of simple rules and simple tools, they are useless today. I mean, if we had to continue using them, we would have been in a very serious problem. We must evolve the same as the other fraudsters are doing around the world to always think ahead. And therefore, we partnered with the Feedzai. We need to have the most advanced tools to have tools that can work with in real time environment, not after the fraud is being done.
100%. And prior to my current life as a technology provider, I was on the bank side as well, trying to protect the customers at Lloyds Banking Group from those types of fraud occurring. And I share exactly the same observation. And we saw it transition through into this world where actually the weakest part of the chain no longer was the bank's defenses, it actually became the customer. And that was the moment of recognition for the fraudster to say, actually, it's going to be far easier to convince the customer to do what I need to do rather than try and get through all the technology layers that the bank has put in place. How are you thinking about the next wave of technology coming through? I mean, we talked about generative AI being a very clear risk to organizations. Are you starting to see your institution think about generative AI in a positive sense as well? Whether that be for operational value or whether that be for value in some other parts of your project. How are you thinking about that next evolution of technology, Shmuel?
There is no doubt that the same tools that are being used today by fraudsters and will evolve in the next coming years are almost the same tools that we will be have to use in order to fight them back and defend ourselves and our clients. So we're definitely exploring all kinds of technologies, all kinds of solutions that are being based on generative AI technology. Keen to see how the behavioral biometrics technology will evolve as well, because I think that this is a very key in the ability to fight and mitigate those scams, to understand if the person that now is making the transaction is actually a bot, or if it's a fraudster, or if it's the client itself. It's something that really interesting to me.
Building on your analogy of, is this a bot or is this a person? In future, we could see the challenge become this is a bot, but how do we differentiate between a good bot and a bad bot?
Approved bot
Exactly.
versus not unapproved bot.
Yeah. Is it a malign bot? Is it a benign bot? There's going to be multiple ways in which we have to think about this, and it's not just about the millisecond-based decisions that you alluded to. It's not just about being able to calculate the features and bringing those intricacies that aren't available to the human. It's about being able to bring in multiple data sources. Things like behavioral biometrics and device profiling, for example. They've often been thought about typically, within a financial institution of being used to protect digital payments. With you guys as an issue where you don't necessarily have the same services available to the consumer that a bank does, but still a very clear value statement and a very clear opportunity around leveraging those technologies. We see the convergence of, I guess you could call it omnichannel detection coming together, where data from a digital channel can now fuel the card channel and vice versa. Is that something that you guys are thinking about as a technological opportunity?
We are thinking about it definitely. It can be used in order to conduct a passive authentication. It can be used as used to uplift the level of authentication. So it can definitely be something that will be helpful also for the customer, success, or the customer interactivity in front of Max.
You mentioned something earlier, Shmuel, which I wanted to touch on, which is it's great that you've got the means of detecting suspicious transactions. So, recognizing the anomaly, recognizing that the user might be scammed. How are you thinking about the operational resolution and the operational treatment of that? How is Max as an organization thinking about that relationship between detection and operational resolution? Do you still think there's a world for self-service where there's a risk that the customer is being scammed, or do you see a world where actually you're having to think about human to human interaction again to truly understand the intent behind that transaction and give yourself and ultimately the customer the best chance to recognize that risk? How are you thinking about authentication in terms of your future strategy?
I think that it must be combined. We cannot rely only on one side to be responsible for making the authentication, because there are both sides for, let's say, playing the game. So we are always giving the client also the ability to take part in the process. We are sending them very clear information about which transaction or which process is now being done, why he is being asked or she is being asked to authenticate himself or herself. We are giving them the ability to whitelist themselves or to approve or decline the transaction.
So we talk about unauthorized fraud, and the customer doesn't know they log into their banking app and see a transaction's being made that they don't know about. Invariably speaking, they'll be entitled to a refund in that case. But in a world where the customer is being tricked, either through divulging a password that's allowed the fraudster to pass the 3DS challenge, or whether they've bought some goods on their card through result of a fraudster request, how do you see your market, and I guess perhaps anywhere outside of your market where you might have insight, thinking about that liability, both generally, but I guess quite specifically within the card world as well, where there doesn't necessarily seem to be a consensus on how this should be handled?
I will say it like that. It's a very interesting question, very up-to-date question. I think that it's very noble to take care of the clients, and I mean, our clients is our bread and butter. I mean, it's very important to take care of them, to make everything that is possible in order to defend them. And I'm 100% sure and above that we are making all the best efforts that it's possible from our side in order to make sure that our clients will be defended as much as possible. Having said that, I think that the financial institutions cannot make everything by themselves. There are a lot of things that unfortunately we don't have any influence on. For example, I don't have any influence or the ability to stop a specific device or specific number from sending dozens and dozens of fake SMSs to clients. This is why I think that this must be a collaboration between the various institutions that are actually taking part in all of this area, let's say it like that. It should be relevant both for regulators, for telecommunications companies, for cyber authorities, from the police. And I really, really hope that the Israeli market will evolve as well in this direction. Unfortunately, we are on the start, on the very basic level, and we had a lot to learn and a lot to progress in this direction.
As you said, from the regulatory perspective, it's very noble to offer that layer of customer protection and ensure that they're made whole in the event that there is a fraud. But is it fair to push all of that liability risk onto the bank when they're doing a significant amount of things, both at the technology level, the process level, the education level? There's so much that the banks do and so much that they invest in trying to keep consumers safe. Is it the right outcome for the bank to bear all of that burden? Or to your point, should that burden be shared more evenly with other parts of the so-called kill chain? I think the answer is that the only way you're going to really incentivize the telcos and the other components of that chain to act with the same depth that the banks do is to start to push some sort of liability, financial or otherwise, into other parts of that kill chain. And whilst people have looked at the UK to say, yep, kudos to you, you've moved quickly, I think the next evolution is, okay, Singapore, Australia, you're trying something slightly different. How do we observe what's going on there and try and bake in the learning so that when a market like Israel is ready to make the move, you've got the benefit of hindsight in understanding what's worked and, perhaps what hasn't worked as well. So, Shmuel, maybe just a couple of things to ask, given the wealth of experience and knowledge that you have in this space, and thinking very much about the people that tune in to watch this podcast. What's the one thing that kind of keeps you awake at night? What's the one thing that worries you in terms of, where your loss line might go, where your consumer risk might go? Can you perhaps give us a few thoughts around what that big concern would be?
One thing,
Or you can name multiple if there are many on that list.
I think that the future is a bit not clear. I think that the deepfakes are something that, all the technology that relates to generative AI, which is always expanding more and more, is something that we need to address and to think about. So if there is something, this is the thing, and we are making everything we can in order to, as I said, explore what technologies there are out there that can mitigate those things. We are taking a strategic plan in order to be well prepared and to make sure that we don't have any gaps that should be addressed. And actually, I really recommend to everyone to make once in a while some kind of a health check in order to make sure that everything is well covered, and that you will not be in a spot when something will happen and you will not have the best tools in order to address it.
I think you make a really interesting point around often for people that are in your position of, fraud leadership, it's quite common for people to get so laser focused on what's going on within the four walls of your institution that you forget to often lift up and look at what's going on elsewhere. Because in the world that we operate, within school, as you well know, what happens elsewhere is very likely to come to you in the future. So how do you strike that balance between, yes, handling the risks that are present now, and are attacking you now, but also preparing for those future risks at the same time? My final question was actually going to be, what's the one thing you would recommend fraud practitioners take away from a man with your experience? You've already touched on that holistic view being extremely powerful, but is there one additional thing that you would add there to say, if someone was to learn from your experience in your position, what's that critical piece of advice that you would give in order to be a successful fraud prevention leader?
I think it's very, very important to make sure that the risk professional will be involved in each and every product that is being developed in the company. to make sure that everyone is working together and that your thoughts will be taken care of during the development of the product and not afterwards. And I think that actually this is something that works quite well in Max. We are stationed in each and every place, and we are trying our best to build smart pathways that will help the product team to innovate, to bring the best in class solutions to our clients, while maintaining the safety of the clients from the other side.
Yeah, I think that's a hugely profound piece of advice that I very much align to. So with that, Shmuel, it's been fantastic to have you on, and we very much appreciate you taking the time. As a fraud leader, we know you've always got 101 things to do. So to carve out the time to have this conversation with us, we're hugely grateful and look forward to our continued collaboration together.
Thank you very much. It was a great pleasure. Thank you.